Hello viewers. Today we shall discuss the meaning, nature and scope of public administration. I wish to start with the meaning of public administration. As a discipline, public administration is a very common part of administration followed in all democracies. What we see in democracies is the government getting involved in the act of administration over, obviously, a group of people living within a definite territory. So, public administration may be considered as governmental activity over a select group of people within a particular territory and the effort of the government to manage its own affairs. Now we come to the specific meaning of the term administration. It's an English word, administration, which is derived basically from two Latin words, ad and ministrare, which means to serve. Simon, Smithberg, and Thomson, they have clearly in their definition considered public administration as specialized activity of the government. So therefore we now need to be clear about what we understand by the term administrative activity. In trying to analyze it, we come across two broad views. One is called the broad view and the other is the narrow view. So the scholars who are of the broader view, they consider public administration to be the fulfillment of public policy. Whereas those who give the narrow view, they consider public administration to be an activity of the executive branch of the government. So over and above, it is an act of administration by the government for implementing public policy and for looking into the activities of the branches of the government, particularly the executive branch. On the basis of implementation of administrative functioning, L.D. White gives us a three-pronged approach. The first aspect of his approach deals with the implementation of public policy. For example, say in case of sale of land or with regard to licensing of matters like the use of atomic energy or say the implementation of a particular treaty. So all these issues which need creation of public policies. The second approach of White, of course, deals with civil and military affairs, that is the regular functioning of the military and other civilian areas, particularly with regard to public construction, etc. And his third approach is with regard to the public affairs which is used in day-to-day life, like creation and maintenance of law, the aspect of teaching in a society, or the research on medicines, etc. So we can say that all the definitions that have been given by scholars, and we can mention the names of Henry Fayol, Luther Gulick, Dimmock, Ruthnaswamy, they've all given us the traditional views of public administration. So, in order to understand the meaning of the discipline, because we have so many definitions, we need to come to a comprehensive definition, which of course we find in the definition of Negro and Negro. He kind of sums up what public administration stands for. And we can point out the specific aspects of the definition as, firstly, it is a cooperative group activity. Secondly, it deals with all the three branches of the government, that is the executive, legislature and judiciary, and mind you at all levels, be it at the national level, be it at the state level or at the local level. It is about the creation and implementation of public policy. Fourthly, we can definitely say that it is different from private administration, so that distinction is there. And fifthly, it, however, interacts with private groups and associations in order to implement the policies. We can definitely say that it is a public bureaucratic activity of the government, dealing with all the three branches, targeted towards the goal of creating public policy and its implementation, being different from private administration. And, of course, we must not forget to mention here that it draws from other areas of the social sciences, and therefore it draws from political science, sociology, and economics. Draws in the sense it draws examples and therefore tries to explain and help establish the meaning of the discipline public administration.
Ma'am, what according to you is the most comprehensive definition for public administration?
Well, I just now mentioned that of all the definitions that we have from several scholars, the most comprehensive definition may be regarded as the one given by Negro and Negro. And it is comprehensive because of the aspects that it emphasizes on, and that is primarily it talks about public administration as a cooperative group activity. So this reflects very much on the government, which is a composition of a set of people. Government does not mean just one person. So there are a group of people together who decide on policies. That is what we exactly mean by creation of public policies and its implementation. And in the whole process of the creation of public policy and its implementation, all the three branches of the government are involved: the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. The three branches, not only at the national level. You know, we are a federal country, so from that perspective, when we think of public administration, we have to think about all the three levels of government. So at the national level, at the state level, and at the local level, how policies are framed, and then how those policies are to be implemented. It is in this context that very specifically, and it has been mentioned by Negro, that public administration is different from private administration. Private administration is conducted by a specific group of people within their specified area as their demand, as their need is. Whereas for public administration, it is the government which decides on policies, and it is meant for people of the country, people living within a particular territory, which you know in political science we call it the state. So policies undertaken by the government and implemented for the benefit of the people, we can sum it up as what is public administration. We shall now discuss about the nature of the discipline public administration. There are several scholars who have identified public administration as a science. Some group considers it as an art. However, we can definitely say that there is a great deal of controversy amongst the scholars themselves as to the nature of the discipline, that whether it is a science or it is an art. Certainly, the group of scholars who hold public administration to be a science, they argue that even science or a scientific analysis of things needs correct information. So they emphasize on the analytical aspect of learning, which is needed in order to understand the nature of any discipline. And from that point of view, they consider public administration to be a science. Another group of scholars, they are preferring to use the term social science, public administration as a social science, whereby it will be a combination of both physical science, biological science, as well as social science disciplines. Now, in trying to understand whether public administration is a science or a social science, the point that I just referred to, correct analysis is required. What is the process of analysis? Or what is the process of arriving at systematic information? Firstly, a pool of knowledge needs to be created. And how do we arrive at this pool of knowledge? We observe things, we have our experience. So putting the two together, we first form a pool of knowledge. Then we try to analyze this knowledge. Then we try to systematically correlate the information that we have gathered. It's called the process of systematization. And then finally, we formulate administrative policies or principles. So this is the process which is followed by public administration, and from this point of view, the scholars are calling it to be a science. There is another group which strongly considers public administration to be an art. They say that it cannot be a science because it is not a science like a natural science like physics or chemistry or any of the biological sciences. It involves or it draws from experiences and examples from social science disciplines like political science, sociology, history, economics, etc. And moreover, the kind of activities that are involved in it, in this kind of administration, actually involves a human element, a human touch. So for these group of scholars, public administration is definitely an art, borrowing heavily from the disciplines of social sciences, aimed at or focused at the implementation of the principles of administration. So certainly a human touch is involved.
Ma'am, we would like to know what is the importance of public administration as a discipline?
Well, public administration has assumed immense dimension in modern times because the democracies all over the world have grown very large, and therefore the activities of the government has also increased. Previously, the state vis-a-vis the government, we knew that it was only involved in maintenance of law and order. So we called it the police state. But now we have what is called the welfare state. So that is, everybody looks up to the government for the benefits that one would like to enjoy in day-to-day life. And the government is also involved in providing to the people these facilities. For example, say social security, particularly for people who fall below a certain level of income. Health facilities at the government hospitals. So all the public policies that are made is with the focus of providing maximum benefit possible to the people. Therefore, the whole concept and discipline of public administration assumes its dimension or its importance in present-day society. Coming to discuss about the scope of public administration, we know that the entire gamut of the discipline of public administration has become very wide because the activities of the government has increased tremendously. It is no longer, as we mentioned, just a police state, but it is also a welfare state. So it has to take into consideration all aspects for the benefit of the people, and therefore policies are framed accordingly. Now, scholars, in trying to discuss the scope of public administration, have distinguished it broadly into two. That is, public administration as an activity and public administration as a discipline. So we first talk about public administration as an activity. As an activity, it once again has been divided into two, or it has been given two views by groups of scholars: the integral view and the managerial view. The integral view, as the name suggests, integrates all matters pertaining to the administration within an organization. So, whether it is the notion of formulating a policy, or it is directing its staff, or it is actually getting the policies implemented at the ground level, everything is to be treated together. So it's a kind of a sum total of all activities. That is the integral view. The managerial view definitely, again as the name suggests, refers to the activities of the managers within an organization. So what kind of activities does a manager get involved in? It is the aspect of planning within an organization, coordinating work within an organization, and also implementing the policies that have been decided upon. So, in one sentence, we can say that the managerial view is about getting things done, whereas the integral view is about doing things. It's just the opposite to each other. When we come to think of public administration as a discipline, we have to refer to the notion that has been suggested by Luther Gulick. He has used a unique term. It's called the POSDCORB, POSDCORB. It stands for, P is for planning, O is for organizing, S stands for staffing and recruitment, D for directing the people, CO is for coordinating, R is for reporting, and B is for budgeting. So the entire gamut of administration is covered in this very one word that has been used by Gulick in order to we can say, sum up the concept of public administration.
Ma'am, do you think POSDCORB is an effective method to understand the activities of the government?
Well, POSDCORB, as I just explained the term, is certainly a wholesome term, but in a way, it is to be treated as the sum total of all activities within an organization, but it gives us a narrow view. It does not take into consideration, and it, by saying it, I am referring to the term POSDCORB, it does not refer to the activities related to the practical implementation of the administrative aspects. So whether in trying to organize or in trying to plan or implement the policies that have been adopted, if the government is facing problems, then those problems do not get highlighted. Certain points need to be highlighted with regard to the overall nature and scope of public administration. Public administration basically is a group activity of the government, so we can call it to be a social activity. It is with regard to formulation of policies by the government for its people. Therefore, the need and demand of the society is always to be taken into consideration. At this juncture, again, we can highlight two things. That is, for any government, for any political party that comes to power, two things are very important while it formulates its policies. Firstly, the immediate effect of the policy, and secondly, the long-term effect of the policy. The immediate effect is felt immediately by the society, and the people respond or react to it very directly. The civil society is very prominent these days, strongly responding to all the governmental activities, whereas the long-term effect of the governmental policies are always realized by the people in the long run, and that is particularly in matters relating to health, the social security aspect, in matters of law and order, in matters of education, etc. So, summing up, public administration is a very essential part of governmental activity in all democracies, and without it, the government cannot function. One more aspect needs to be mentioned here, and that is about the shift in the nature of development of public administration. Why is the discipline gaining in importance day by day? In this context, we certainly need to mention about the developing countries, or what was previously known as the third world countries. We all know that after the end of the Second World War, a good number of countries gained independence. On gaining independence, their main focus was to achieve socio-economic development, construction of their social order, etc. That is benefit of the people. And in trying to do so, the government in these countries have adopted policies targeted towards social welfare. So, public administration definitely, therefore, can be considered as formulation of public policies aimed at social welfare, and this is being followed in most of the developing countries even today.
Ma'am, can you please explain what are the immediate and long-term effects of governmental actions on society?
The immediate effects, or what we call the short-term effects, comes across through the policies adopted by the government with regard to very crucial issues. For example, let's talk about the Indo-US nuclear deal. We know that after much deliberation for a few years, the government finally concluded the deal in January
2005.
But just signing the deal was not enough. So adopting a policy with regard to the signing of the deal was not enough for the government. The next step that it had to consider was with regard to the use of the atomic energy. Who would be using the energy and for what purpose? Who would be the suppliers to these nuclear plants, the nuclear fuel? These are issues which are of immediate relevance, of immediate impact. So we can call them the short-term policies and vis-a-vis its relevance on society. The long-term policies are those which the government adopts, keeping the future in view. For example, policies with regard to health. The present government is putting a lot of effort. It is publicizing widely on the creation of or on the establishment of proper sanitation facilities, particularly for the women of the country. It is advertising it through the media, through the various media agencies. So these are policies which the government is adopting, and we know that we will not be able to see its impact overnight. It will take years, but certainly the policies are being adopted in order to have a long-term impact. This is what the ultimate impact of public administration is all about. It's a wholesome activity of the government. It is a cooperative group activity of the government, where not only the executive is to be involved, but also the members of the legislature, the members of the judiciary, and even the common man of the country can contribute in helping the government adopt its policies.